Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm going to be talking about the full moon in Capricorn, which is on the 9th of July at 4:05 AM Universal Time, which equates to 5 past 5 in the morning UK time, because British Summertime the clock's being an hour ahead. So this particular full moon is going to be a pretty powerful one, quite transformative, because it's got a lot of aspects to it. Now, this full moon is partly showing some of the fruition of the intentions that we set at the Cancer new moon, which was on the 24th of June. But it's also the last full moon of this year that is linked to intentions set last year, because the full moon in Capricorn marks the final, or the end result of the intentions that we set when we had the new moon in Capricorn back on the 29th of December last year. So the next full moon that we have, which happens to be lunar eclipse, will be the first full moon of this year linked to intentions started in 2017. Now, in terms of the full moon in Capricorn, we've got the sun transiting through Cancer, has been since the solstice back on the 21st of June. That will carry on until the 22nd of July when the sun moves into Leo. And this transit is all about getting in touch with our internal nature, our core, the roots of our being, and making sure that we have a sense of deep rooted security with ourselves that allows us to be grounded, because if we nurture the roots of our being, then we can grow tall. We've got a solid foundation to nurture the rest of our journey up until the point where we come to the winter solstice, where the sun's in Capricorn, and this is where we're talking about the highest manifestation. But to get there, we have to do the work of Cancer first. So sun in Cancer has been all about understanding our emotional nature, so developing emotional awareness, getting a sense of rootedness within our being by spending time alone, not necessarily isolating ourselves, but just spending a bit of time in solitude to unwind and pay attention to the emotional cues and responses that our minds are programmed with, and learning to deprogram them, so separating the thought patterns from the emotional charge that they normally produce, because Cancer holds a lot of our past conditioning within it. So the emotional cues to old psychological cues and mental cues based on what's happened earlier in our life, especially in childhood. So during this time we have a chance to heal the child within ourselves by dealing with the emotional side of ourselves, understanding why we respond emotionally in certain situations and in a manner that isn't actually relevant or suitable for what's actually happened. So the events happening now may be relatively minor and mundane and not really something that you'd normally flip out over, but if it mirrors something linked to our core wounds, then we may suddenly flip out about it when in the past we may be a bit more calm about it. So this is the sun in Cancer. Now we have the moon in Capricorn, so new moons and full moons are named after the sign the moon is in. So with the moon in Capricorn, this is calling for a balance between the two energies. If we focus too much on Cancer, we can end up navel gazing. We're so obsessed with our internal world and our emotional nature that we don't take any action in the external world, and without external action to counteract our emotional side, we don't have a way of bringing balance between our inner and outer natures. So with the moon in Capricorn, this may also indicate a time where we're suddenly feeling a sense of determination, patience and self-discipline to pursue important goals for us related to our dreams, because Cancer contains a lot of our personal dreams. So by understanding these, Capricorn then, as the opposite sign, takes the actions to manifest those dreams in a patient, methodical way, so taking one step at a time, not rushing ahead the way Aries might do. It takes its time and makes sure each step taken is going to produce solid ground, because if Cancer's emotional security, then Capricorn can be often seen as physical security, and trying to create a lasting legacy for ourselves based on our dreams, we have to make sure that what the actions that we're taking are actually aligned to a dream that is ours and isn't just something that we borrowed from someone else. Now, this particular full moon has quite a few aspects to it. Now, one of the most important ones is Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. This full moon is almost exactly conjunct Pluto, i.e. Moon conjunct Pluto and Sun opposite. This also marks the midpoint of the Pluto retrograde. Now, with Pluto, he's showing us our shadow side. So what actions or obsessive compulsions do we have related to our physical security, and where do we take actions which are not aligned with truth? Because the high nature of Capricorn is divine order, so this is understanding the natural laws that Sagittarius teaches us, and then applying them to our daily lives, so making our lives aligned with these natural laws, so that we can then engage in the flow. Because the rule of Capricorn Saturn is known as karmic taskmaster. So if we're doing something which violates these laws, then we create karma for ourselves, and at some point we will have to face that karma. It may not be instant, it may take a while to hit, depending on how sensitive we are and how much deconditioning we've done. Because generally speaking, the more weight we are, the faster the karma is likely to hit, because we should know better by this point. So Pluto is really ramming home the need to apply truth to our lives and to live by those truths, and not just have them as some airy-fairy concepts in our minds which we give lip service to but don't actually live by. Pluto in Capricorn, since 2008 when we first entered, we've been seeing the effects of this transit, where everything that we took for granted in the past as being inviolable, like the bastion societies, banks, religions, they've all, anyone that's been had lies or untruth that they're caught has been exposed since 2008 in one way or another. And it's not just happening collectively, it's happening personally as well. And one of the net effects with the Pluto transit of Capricorn is that we're being challenged to embody the counterpoint, so the polarity to Pluto and Capricorn, which is Cancer. So whereas in the past we may have been very staunch, stoic, focused on pursuing goals in a very determined way and possibly adhering to status quo, now we're being asked to get in touch with our inner nature again, to make sure that what we're doing is actually aligned with who we are. So by understanding who we are, by doing the work of Cancer, we can then make sure that the physical legacy that we leave behind us is a reflection of who we are. There's no discrepancy between the two. Our public identity and our private sense of self are one and the same. So when people see us, they see the authentic self, not just a mask that we put on out of fear. Another planet we have is Mars in Cancer. So Mars has been loosely conjunct the Sun for the whole of this month so far, and they've met their complete conjunction in Leo, but Mars is still opposite Pluto. It's not as strong as before, but we're seeing the effects of where our conscious desires, or what we want, clashes with our heart's desires, which is what we need. So during this time we may be experiencing a lot of frustration as we're coming to terms with our shadow, with understanding the deepest side of ourselves and having to dredge these parts of ourselves out. Mars in Cancer is more desiring of security and emotional support, as opposed to freedom when Mars is in signs like Aries, which is his home sign. So we've got this clash between desire for protection and possibly to hide, and Pluto demanding that we deal with our public identity, we actually take the time to understand ourselves and produce a public identity which is a seamless match to who we truly are. Now, there's two other planets involved in this whole configuration. We have Jupiter over in Libra square the full moon and loosely square Pluto. So since Jupiter's passage into Libra, we've seen a lot of activity around social justice collectively, but it's also about expansion through cooperation. This is a higher element to Jupiter in Libra, because we can get so focused on social justice, but we don't actually take constructive action. We don't cooperate with other people. We think we know what's right and we're not going to listen to other people. And Libra also deals with, Libra may be known as the sign of harmony and balance, but it also deals with a lot with projection, because Libra is the first sign where we encounter our personal shadow, but we see it openly reflected to us by other people. It's not as subtle, so we see other people embodying parts of ourselves that we haven't consciously integrated. Now, if they're positive qualities that are within us but we haven't acknowledged them, then the person that we cross paths with will inspire us. If, however, the person embodies something that we don't like about ourselves, then we may feel an instinctive dislike for the person, but it's at that point we need to stop for a moment and ask ourselves, is what this person doing, is it really about what the person is saying or doing, or is it that this person simply represents a part of ourselves that we don't like? Because if it's the latter, then we need to stop blaming the other person, projecting all the issues outwards, and take time to turn inwards and use the power of forgiveness to accept those shadow parts of ourselves and integrate them. Because when we can bring the shadow into balance with our light self, then we can become a lot more powerful, become more authentic, because we understand ourselves far deeper. And by bringing this internal harmony to ourselves, we can then radiate that harmony, radiate that grace to other people, because we're no longer in conflict within ourselves, and because we've dealt with that inner conflict, that inner peace that comes from that then radiates outwards from us and can draw other people into the peace. But if we just spend our entire time judging other people because they're radiating or demonstrating parts of our shadow selves that we don't like, then we're not going to grow. So this, and Jupiter square to Pluto is also indicating where we need to let go of old belief systems, old paradigms, and acknowledge where at the moment we're living in the shadow side of our potential, and we need to transform it. Because Pluto is the deep self, and it's a place that's hidden from the outside world. It's a place that, yeah, we might shine through to some extent, but only we can truly know it. And there may be belief systems that stand in the way of us truly knowing who we are and embracing our full power. So this is a key aspect to deal with. The last planet is Neptune in Pisces. It's retrograde at the moment. Neptune is trying to show us where we still engage in escapist tendencies within Pisces, and also to see where old patterns within our minds need to be dissolved. Now, Neptune is trine to the Sun, so it's not a difficult aspect to search, although the two functions are very contradictory in that aspect, because the Sun is our conscious self. It's often radiates out as the ego, whereas Neptune is the spiritual nature of ourselves, which understands that the ego is actually an illusion, but it's a necessary one that we need to have in order to interact with the world. If we didn't have it, we'd be no more than ghosts. So we do need the ego as much as it gets demonized, but we have to align it to its proper place. So this aspect to Neptune, which is, if we use it consciously, will allow us to open our crown chakras, understand our spiritual nature, and transform our identity through that. So by bringing in this transcendental energy through Neptune in Pisces retrograde, we can open our crown chakras and get to know our higher self, our divine self. Because when that energy flows through us, it can dissolve old patterns. We have to invite it in. It's not something that automatically happens to us. Because the thing with astrology, it doesn't control our lives. It provides influences which can empower us to take certain actions, but doesn't force us to do anything. So with any kind of astrological patterns, like the powerful energy that we've got at this full moon, we have to take conscious action to align with it and make the most of it. Otherwise, it's just another opportunity that we waste, but it doesn't force us to do anything. Astrology is merely a guide for understanding how we can best use the energies available to us through how everything has been reflected from the energy of the universe around us. But if we don't take any action whatsoever, then nothing's really going to happen. We're just going to stay where we are, and we may feel stagnant, may feel unhappy, but that's because of our own choice not to do anything. It's not down to the energies around us. So we have to take advantage of the energy with us. A big focus at the moment of this sky is forgiveness. It's facing our internal side and forgiving everything in the past that keeps us bound to old thought patterns, old ideas and old wounds. Because if we transform this, then we take a big step forward in terms of stepping into our personal power and become the best version of ourselves. But if we're not prepared to take any action to transform our past, then we're not going to grow. It's as simple as that. It may not be a popular statement to make, but that's the truth for you. If we don't take action, nothing's going to happen, nothing will change. Or if we take actions but keep relying on the same actions that we've done before, then again nothing will change, because if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. So if we take advantage of the astrology, understand it, and try and use it to empower ourselves by aligning ourselves with the spiritual lessons that the sky is reflecting to us, then we can achieve a lot of growth. But we have to make that choice for ourselves. No one can force us to do it, and the sky certainly doesn't force you to do it. So I hope it's a useful guide for this full moon in Capricorn. It may bring you a lot of transformation in a positive sense. It frees you from the past, allows you to embrace your authentic self and take steps towards goals that are true to who you are, and not just something you're doing because other people think it would be good for you. So take care, and may you get many blessings from the full moon.